Initially, this video is going to be a fairly simple album review. After a couple of listens, I knew Positions was exceptional in its blunt lyricism and perfect blend of pop and R&B. But one of my main criticisms of this record was going to be the lack of a cohesive theme and story, which would have been a huge letdown following the thematic-driven Thank You Next. After listening to the album for a fifth time, I wanted to try to put the pieces together. By the last track of the album, the stars aligned, and one thing became clear. Positions does have a story. And yeah, sure, it's a cute collection of pop songs, but they have meaning. There's a lesson to be learned here. But before we get into that, let's get a little bit of background information. By now, everyone knows the story of Sweetener and Thank You Next. Sweetener was Ariana telling herself that she's okay. When Mac Miller passed away after the release of Sweetener and her engagement with Pete Davidson fell through, she couldn't pretend anymore. She needed to be honest through her art, and that's exactly the philosophy that Thank You Next is based off of. Instead of ignoring her struggles, Thank You Next is a confrontation of what troubled Ariana the most: being too needy, having to fake a smile, and coping with her trauma through shopping. But it's also a celebration of those struggles. Thank You Next is about accepting her past as it is. What's in the past is in the past, and she wouldn't be where she is today without it. Now, what makes this relevant to Positions? Positions is a sequel to these records, both thematically and sonically. The opener, Shut Up, makes a great transition from the previous album. It's a much more extrospective look of the past 3 years of Ariana's life. She's faced ruthless criticism. The media claimed that she played herself off as the biggest victim of the Manchester bombing that happened at her concert in 2017. They followed her relationship with Pete Davidson under intense scrutiny. When Mac Miller passed away, users of social media blamed her for his unfortunate overdose. She's been to hell and back with all that she's been through, and these unwarranted criticisms sent her for a second trip. That's what Ariana is referring to as she harmoniously sings Shut Up on this first track here. Rather than letting these comments and criticisms get to her head, she's reading them, laughing them off, and telling these people to just shut up. And it's made very clear by the lyrics too. How you be spending your time, you be so worried about mine, you know you sound so dumb. The harmonies are absolutely gorgeous and are stacked just as perfectly as they've been on her last 2 records. What separates this track from her last 2 records, though, are the absolutely beautiful strings. These are all over the album, but are especially well employed on this first track. It provides such a nice contrast to the blunt and witty lyrics. The strings are even used to make up this cinematic intro and beautiful theatrical outro to the song. The album then moves into 34 plus 35, the real introduction into Position's thematic composition. If you thought Shut Up had blunt lyrics, then you're in to get your mind blown here. I'm shocked that Ariana even read these lyrics out to a producer, let alone put them on an album. But I'm happy she did. There's no sugarcoating it. In her own words, she wants this guy to give her his babies. I mean, some of these other lyrics had me laughing too. Baby, you might need a seat, but when I ride it, I'ma leave it open like a door. You can't make that up, man. You just can't. These rather straightforward lyrics contrast very nicely with the light and airy production of the track. The strings just pick me up and I fly away. Every time I listen to the song, I can't help but just have a smile on my face. The witty lyrics, the beautiful production, everything about this track screams pop perfection to me. Let's keep the very lucky gentleman detailed in 34 plus 35 as we move into the next track, Motive. This song it's so good. It's so good, guys. The sound and the mix of the beat is just impeccable, and mixed with Ariana's R&B vocals, it's so easy to get lost in this song. And guys, don't get me started on Doja Cat's verse, man. I mean, her flow is just perfect for the beat, and she contrasts so well with Ariana's vocals. Now, all those things are great, but I think the best part about this track is the narrative. You know, it's not some mind-blowing idea that guys aren't the best at showing what they want out of a relationship, but it's the lyrics on this track that sell the narrative to be more than it actually is. I can call bullshit out from a mile away. Don't say you want me if you can't keep coming back for me. Write out to carve you if you can't just talk straight. Say what you mean cause you may get it. This isn't some petty middle school drama. It's Ariana putting in a genuine request for communication. If her partner here doesn't communicate his motives, she knows things won't work out. We'll take a closer look into what happens with this relationship after a quick detour into the next track, Just Like Magic. With this track, I love and hate the lyrics, I love and hate the production. Everything about this song sucks, but it's just so good at the same time. I guess to talk about the lyrics, it feels like just this pattern of good shit, good shit, good shit. Say, looking in my phone, but I'm trying to disconnect it. Read a fucking book, I be trying to stay connected. Losing friends left and right, but I just send them love and light. Alright, whatever helps you sleep at night, I guess. And don't get me wrong, I don't think this is a bad song. I actually enjoy it quite a bit when I listen to it, if I ignore some of the questionable lyrics. The melody is extremely catchy, and the beat carries everything really well. And I get what she's going for on this track too. I just wish a little bit more thought was put into the lyrical content and how that would pair with the aesthetic of the production. Now with that out of the way, we can get back into the nice, juicy narrative of what is going on with Ariana and her new man. Let's take a look at Off the Table. If you like R&B, this song is heaven. It's not one of my personal favorites off the record, but I love the blend between Ariana and Abel's voice on this track. It's a really nice callback to their previous collaboration, Love Me Harder. Where I feel disconnected from this track is where the mix gets a little bit too busy because of the reverb, particularly on the back half of this track. It just feels too crowded, and if I'm not paying attention, it can literally just sound like a bunch of noise. And that part's unfortunate to me, because I think this track continues this album's narrative very meaningfully. Off the Table can be perceived in two ways. Either Ariana and Abel are singing from similar experiences, or they're singing to each other. Given that the album continues to follow the relationship presented on this track, the latter makes the most sense. Both parties are seriously considering the idea of moving into a relationship, coming off hot of previous relationships that they had been attached to. It's even possible that these two lovers may have had a flick beforehand. But Ariana doesn't know if she's ready for this relationship. Contrarily, Abel seems ready to dive in, but he isn't convinced his partner is. He cites that he could be the reason their previous endeavors fell out in the first place. I was haunted by the hills. I couldn't give you my all, but I will. I think it's made clear what might have happened here, but I also think it's clear that Abel's character is willing to improve upon himself to make things work. And it seems like Ariana came to a conclusion as the album goes into 6:30, a song I really didn't like on my first couple of listens. I thought the hook was really annoying and the production was a bit off-putting. That was until one evening, everything sort of just clicked. This is probably one of my favorite songs to listen to on the record now. Yeah, the hook is still pretty bad, but the way it's delivered more than makes up for that. Not to mention, the bridge on this song is a really nice switch up. I just wish the melody of that bridge continued out for a few more bars or so. On 6:30, it's clear that Ariana has moved into the next phase of her relationship, but she still has her doubts. I just wonder, baby, if you're gonna stay, even if one day I'll lose it and go crazy. I just want to tell you directly, so boy, let me know if you ready. Now, I know I said the hook is kind of bad, but that's only because the lyrics themselves sound a bit silly. The writing itself is actually quite genius. On the chorus, she sings, "Are you down? What's up?" Using words with opposite meanings, down and up, to show how she believes her relationship could go either way, is really clever. Her feelings of doubt then continue onto the next track, Safety Net. Here, though, Ariana realizes that she actually has real feelings for this person. It's no longer a purely physical relationship. I've never been this scared before, feelings I just can't ignore. Don't know if I should fight or flight, but I don't mind. Ariana shows that she was caught off guard. Although she considered a serious relationship on Off the Table, she forgot about the seriousness of it all on 6:30. On the hook, Ariana uses a safety net as a way to describe how she is falling into this relationship. There was no warning, no preparation. Whatever happens, happens. This feeling of uncertainty is conveyed through the production as well. There are these ghastly background vocals that sound like they could be from FKA Twigs, but there's no confirmation as to who they may be from. I also thought Ty Dolla $ign was a nice addition to the track as well. His verse fit the vibe perfectly, and his background vocals on the last chorus really sells the song for me. Now, the vibe of Safety Net completely contrasts that of the vibe of the next song, My Hair. Holy shit, this song is so good, guys. The jazzy guitar, the beat, the melody, the lyrics, everything about this song is perfect. I love the way everything sounds together, especially on the hook. Look, my only criticism of this song is that it's too short. I wish Ariana expanded this song with a longer bridge, a refrain, or something along those lines. I didn't realize this until quite a few listens in, but this song is lyrically genius. It's not just some cute little love song, and I would have been perfectly okay with it if it was. In actuality, this song is about letting your hair down and letting go. Ariana isn't nervous about this relationship anymore. She isn't scared of what the outcome might be. She's happy, Her partner is happy and she's going to make the most of it. Letting her partner touch her hair is letting her partner indulge in every piece of her. Usually don't let people touch it, but tonight you'll get a pass. She often doesn't open up to people, but she willingly does so with her partner. Unfortunately, this ethereal track transitions into what might be my least favorite track on the album, Nasty. It's not that Nasty is a bad song per se, it's just, it doesn't stand apart from any other track on the record and, quite frankly, the rest of her discography. Lyrically, we've already heard this on 34 plus 35. Sonically, it sounds like it could have come right off of Sweetener. And the overall feel and vibe of the track has been done on Positions already. I guess the argument could be made that this song progresses the narrative, but it's not very interesting because again, this song is thematically similar to 34 plus 35. Again, this track is not bad, it's actually quite nice to listen to, but I don't think it adds to the album as a body of work, making it a pretty average track overall. I feel similarly about the next song, Westside, which sounds pretty similar to Safety Net, but I think it's a lot more forgivable because this track is a lot shorter and I think it has a better feel overall. It almost seems like this song should have been earlier in the album. It would have fit there better sonically and thematically. On this track, Ariana sings about how she's going to bring the light back into this person's life, and this person needs to follow through with the relationship that they're diving into. But based on the last couple of tracks, it already seems like they're in a pretty solid relationship, so it's just a bit confusing. After those two bummers comes Love Language, undoubtedly one of the best tracks on the album. I'm gonna be honest, when I heard this song's intro for the first time, I think it triggered my fight or flight response. I was blown away by the arrangement and the mix of this track. The strings, the piano, the percussion, the harmonies, everything is immaculate. There's even this 8-bar intro with its own lyrics and like separate production. It could have been its own song, but it doesn't even sound out of place. Both pieces of this track show one thing. Ariana is confident in her relationship. Not only does she feel like she's the perfect person for her significant other, she's going to tell him exactly what she wants from him. I want you to keep speaking my love language, baby, talk your shit all night. And not only is she going to tell him what she wants from him, she's going to tell him what she's going to do to him. That's exactly what the title track Positions is about. One second, she's got the power in the relationship, the next, she's taking care of her man. Admittedly, I wasn't the biggest fan of the song when it was released, but in the context of the album, I like it a lot better. I always thought the song was fun and catchy, but instrumentally, I didn't connect with it until I heard the other songs. Now, I actually think it's one of my favorites. Which, speaking of favorites, the song Obvious is really good. The synth horns consistent throughout this track gives off a very warm feeling, making its placement in this last segment of the album warranted. It's also a really good signification of where Ariana is in her relationship. It's clear that she's in love, and she knows it. In fact, she thinks it's quite obvious. Okay, Ariana stans are going to hate me for this one, but when I heard the beginning of this song for the first time, I immediately thought of Willy Wonka's Pure Imagination.
Come with me, and you'll be in a world of pure imagination.
Please don't kill me, guys. In all seriousness, this is a really great track, and it's definitely on my list of favorites. Now, Positions could have ended here. Not only does Obvious's warm atmosphere give off the essence of a closer, its lyrics pretty much covers every theme we've seen on Positions so far. Yeah, the album could have ended here, but POV makes for one of the best pop album closers I've heard in a long while. The production here is cheesily sentimental, but it fits in with the rest of the album. The wavy R&B production, the Christmassy, nostalgic melody on this track are great, but I think what makes this such a good closer is the narrative tie-up it provides. Every lyric here is a peek into Ariana's relationship. You got more than 20/20, babe, made of glass the way you see through me. How you touch my soul from the outside, permeate my ego and my pride. These are some really introspective and mature lyrics from Ariana, and they touch on all the different themes we've seen throughout the album. Positions started with closure. Closure from Ariana's past. The album also starts with willingness. The willingness to move on from that past. And she gets that opportunity, but she doesn't realize it right away. She has this purely physical relationship with this person and only realizes that she could be going off the edge into something more until it's almost too late. Although there's no safety net, Ariana willingly takes the journey into the unknown. And to her luck, it works out. She meets someone with whom she is compatible. Someone who can love every aspect of her, both the positive and the negative. And although Ariana isn't used to this kind of love, She knows she would be stupid if she didn't try to make it work. And that's what Positions is about, making that transition from one part of your life to the next. Sometimes it could be new friends, a new job, a new house. For Ariana, this just so happened to be a new relationship. Take a look at yourself and ask, am I stuck in my past? If you answered yes, how will you move on from it? Maybe you'll try to make light of it like on Sweetener, or maybe you'll dive deep into it like Ariana does on Thank You Next. For most people, these things help. They help you make sense of what you've gone through. But the most important part of moving on is actually moving on. How are you going to do it? Maybe you're 16 years old and can't get past your troubled childhood. Or maybe you're 25 years old and you just ended a toxic relationship. You could even be 40 years old and you just got a divorce and hate your job. Whatever your circumstance, look inside yourself. What is it that you like to do? Where do you like to go? Who are the people that you like to see? The biggest reason people can't move on from something is because they feel like it has become a part of them. It was a part of your life, but it was not a part of you. Look inside yourself and remember who you are. Do the things you like to do. Go to the places you like to go. See the people you like to see. Don't not do anything about it because you feel like a piece of yourself was left behind. You're still here. You're still you. Of course, this philosophy doesn't apply to everything, like the loss of loved ones. That takes time, especially when you're young. But if you feel like you're stuck in your past, take a listen to Ariana Grande's Sweetener, Thank You Next, and most importantly, Positions. Listen to the ideas these albums put forth. They're collections of documented experiences of someone who has gone through something similar to what you may have gone through. In terms of what I think of this album, overall, I really loved it. It's rather strange. I feel like through this review, I found that I have more complaints about this album than I would other pop albums. Still, it's one of my favorite records of the year. I think I've come to the conclusion that I love this album because of the message and how that message is conveyed. On the surface, Positions is merely an R&B pop hybrid. It's full of bops, some deeper R&B cuts, and some tracks that are to be expected on an Ariana Grande record. But if you look a little bit deeper, Positions is so much more than that. It's a continuation of the life story of one of the 21st century's most loved and scrutinized artists. You know, I've been reading Twitter and watching reaction videos, and it really seems like people aren't connecting with this album. You know, they say it's boring and the lyrics are rather plain and meaningless, but I couldn't disagree more. I think it's a problem that comes when you listen to something for the first time. You know that you haven't formed a full opinion on an album, but you go into your second listen with your first impression of it in mind. I think when people heard what Positions was on the surface, that is all they looked for on a subsequent listen. And I almost fell into that trap as well. But when I listen to music, I try to keep an open mind. I wasn't expecting to connect with this album as much as I did, but when I dropped my presumptions of it and really listened, that's when everything fell into place. That's what I want you to do with this album, and all music for that matter. You don't have to like Positions. I 100% understand that this album isn't for everyone, especially because it leans more onto the R&B side of things. But when you're listening to new music, don't take a song or an album for what you think it is. Take it for what it is. Keeping that philosophy in mind, I think people will find themselves connecting to music that they never thought they would be able to connect to. Just remember, don't be afraid to switch up your positions on things. I'm Austin Bartnicki, and this was a talk on Ariana Grande's latest studio album, Positions. Thank you.